Yes? Okay, so it's 7 o'clock, and it's the meeting of the Conservation Commission, the town of Upton. And 7 o'clock, we have a request for determination of applicability for 6 Keys Road. And replacement of a septic system. So, Mary or Grace, do you have the item to read, please?
Mary, we don't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, so
Now, can you hear us?
Yes. Perfect.
Shall I read that again? No, you guys don't need
Mary,
that.
Mary, Marcella and Alan have struggled to sign in.
Same thing, all right, let me see if I don't have any other people too.
Recorded. Grace, is it being recorded? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have 6 Keys Road. So we can hear from the applicant or their engineer, please.
Maybe they can't get in. Now, I'm forwarding.
It's
Okay.
a protection of septic system.
You folks are not for 6 Ps, they're for the 815 piece, that's what it's.
I don't want to assume.
You know what happens.
Absolutely. 6 Keys Road should be, Daniel McIntyre or Kevin Haggerty. That one is for the replacement of a septic system. It is relatively simple. But, Chris, do you want to put it off to see if they show up?
If you like to. Do you want to tell us your information, Mary, and then maybe I'll be here?
Sure, I can do that. Let me can share the screen with plans. Give me a minute.
Carolyn Gorse raised her hand.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes, Caroline?
I just wanted to let you know that there was a different link on the agenda that was posted. So if you were missing people, they might have gone to that Zoom link instead of this one.
Okay, thank you.
Carolyn, how did you find the correct link?
Oh yeah, I'm not muted anymore. So I went back to the website, the Conservation Commission website, and there was a link at the top of the page
Okay,
that was different from the one that was provided in the agenda.
okay, thank you. That might explain some absences.
Yes, that would explain it. Let's see if there's any. Okay.
Hi, Rosella. I think Mike Antonellis is trying to get in as well.
Yep. He is as well.
Yeah, Mike's having a hard time with the link too. Right, Pete?
Maybe I should turn
Mike
my cell
and
phone on.
Yeah,
So you can just tell them to go to the website,
I think,
page,
yeah,
or some other.
okay, so
You choose.
Mike says, I cannot get on, it says host has another meeting in progress.
Yeah, I
we'll
was
put the meeting
having,
that in.
I had trouble logging in for that original as well. I don't know.
I'll tell you, I couldn't get in the Board of Selectmen meeting earlier tonight either.
Oh, really? I wonder if there's something.
Oh,
Either the phone or the link. didn't work.
Really?
Okay, so. Well, always good to have.
All
You're the
right,
lucky one, you're right, but they all got in, right? Some of them got in.
yeah, some people got in. Found another route. All right, well, here is the septic plan for 6Ps.
Okay.
This is a septic replacement. See if I can- see better. Do it on here. Six Ps Road, is surrounded by wetland actually, so they're gonna put the new septic in front. There's really no issues with it, there's no other place they can put it, you know, they have erosion controls, so that's fine. It is, 6Ps has Centerbrook coming down on this side. And then this side is a perennial stream that goes into Centerbrook. So the property is pretty much surrounded by wetland on all sides. The septic system is about, to review,
Was this a replacement?
it's a replacement,
Okay.
yeah,
It's going in the exact same spot?
pretty much. Yeah, they have to, obviously, they have to make it bigger.
Yeah.
That's how it works these days. The septic is approximately, the closest point to the wetland is 60 feet away. The majority of the leach field lies outside of the 100-foot buffer. But because there's a riverfront area, both for Centerbrook and for this tributary, pretty much the whole property is within riverfront area, so there's not much you can do about that. My only real comments on this one, and I'll bring up my report, is that there's some, and obviously I feel bad for the people, there's no place for them to put their brush or anything, so they have been putting some brush in the wetland. Here's the house, septic is going in front of the house. Retaining wall is about the edge of the disturbance, wetland is behind us here. Here's the wetland flags, as you can see are right here, and there's brush in the wetland.
They can burn their brush.
I know, yeah, they can burn their brush. And then in one place, this is the perennial stream that enters into Centerbrook, so the lawn comes pretty close to that in one place. And actually you can see from here. They did a notice of intent 4 years ago for putting a pool in, and that's done. Let's see if this is- They have a nice map of the property on the notice of intent. Here you can see it. And so they have actually a lot of grass. Here's Centerbrook on this side. And here's the unnamed tributary. This shows the wetlands and the floodplain. So they don't really have a lot of space to be putting stuff. But if the house is being sold, you know, this was built before the bylaw, so they have lawn, you know, pretty much very close into it's pretty close to the wetland. If the owners would want to consider putting bounds, I mean, you would have to put a lot in, it would go around the whole, the whole thing. The septic is going in front. So that is something the commission could consider. Maybe it's a large lawn, you know, it could be a little smaller.
How do they feel about making their back a little smaller?
I don't know, and I'm not sure if.
They
they're
don't have to make it small.
No, they don't
They
have to.
might out of good, you know.
If they, you know, because they do have, it's a relatively big yard, as you can see, that some of the neighbors have much smaller yards.
Right.
But the septic is in front, and the rest of this is really not really related to that project.
Yeah, well, they have enough for Russian, but.
Right,
Yeah.
I guess that was the thing, yes.
Yes, they can store the
They can
brush
make
on
a
their
little
lawn.
area.
Yeah, they can just
Make
pull
a
it out a
little
little.
area towards the back.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, where the greens is 30 foot buffer?
let's see, this is the green. I'm not actually sure in this plan. Oh, there's Marcella.
She made it,
Yeah.
muted.
Let's see if I can mute you.
Yeah, I have a question. Am I correct in seeing this, that the lawn extends into the wetland?
This is the notice of intent plan from 4 years ago, which I did not review very carefully. But certainly that one area, I showed you the picture, I think I took the picture right about here, where the stream is literally right next to the lawn. I did not do soil samples within the lawn, because the area of concern, I mean, we can go back and look at it. But there's definitely, and I'm not sure if they flagged the whole thing, they flagged along here. I didn't look at this side to see what was flagged. But certainly the lawn goes within the 30-foot buffer, 30-foot, no disturb. And as to whether some of the lawn may be wetland itself, I didn't look at that very closely.
Did they get a certificate of compliance for the pool?
Right, and that's an interesting, that's an interesting point. I researched it and I couldn't actually find the order of conditions anywhere. There's a DEP number, the meeting minutes are not there. And I think this was, this is in the middle of COVID, and I think it was when Denise was transitioning out. So there may have been a little bit of mayhem. So I did reach out to them and asked if they had a copy of the order. It's not recorded, but we don't have a copy of it anywhere. So I don't even know what happened with that one.
If they have a copy, could they record it and then get the certificate of compliance?
Yeah, if they had a copy, I would, yeah, that would be, they could do that. Or we could just say it's, it's done, you could write a letter saying the work was permitted, whatever happened, but.
Okay, whatever you are feeling comfortable with.
So I think, maybe I recommend that we approve a negative determination for the septic system. And then, talk with the owners about, what they would like to do with the bounds before I actually, issue that determination.
Do a motion to issue a negative determination.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Press I.
Tom, I, David, I.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, Alan can't vote tonight.
Okay, so that's the majority of the question.
Alan can't get it, he's type crazy.
Well, it was probably.
He might be in the dark too, sometimes he's traveling.
Great.
Okay, now 7:15, we have the certificate of compliance for Upton Ridge, DEP number 311-0726.
And I believe, Dave Farrar, are you on this one?
He just has his hand.
Yeah.
raised.
Yes, Dave, how about you let us know what your comment is? And right now you're muted.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank
Hi.
you.
My name is Dave Farrar, and I'm with Marchionda and Associates. And I'm sitting in for Mike Rosati. He's been the one doing most of the work here, but he's unable to attend. So I'm here to hopefully answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. So, Mary, can you let us know what your review showed?
Yeah, so we've been working on this for a while. They have submitted an as-built plan and a letter from the engineer saying that things are completed basically according to the plans. One of the outstanding issues had been the baseline report needed the photos of where the bounds were, and they submitted that recently. I did email that out. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at it. They did submit their last wetland replication report, and that's done. And Dave, maybe you have an update on the conservation restriction. Is there any news on that?
As far as it being recorded or,
Well, I know it's with the state. Do you know if they've officially approved it yet?
I'm not sure about that, but, knowing how it works with the state, it probably hasn't gone through yet.
So the conservation restriction is still in status. I did a site visit on Monday and compiled kind of my findings just today, so that hopefully hasn't had very much time to look at it. I just had you know, I found some silt fence that was still sitting around. And then this is what was done with most of the silt fence from the site, and I may have had a talk with Mike about this. He might have asked me if this was okay, but I actually can't remember. But the board can actually decide for themselves. What they did is they took all the silt fence and they laid it flat, and then the remains of the compost filter stock or whatever are kind of covering it. So you can still see some silt fence there, but it's not standing up anymore. It's not completely buried, but it is out in the woods. So the commission could recommend to just remove it all.
Is it biodegradable? What's in there?
It's, no, it's
Oh,
the
it's
plastic.
Then it should come out.
Yeah, we can. Please.
Yeah, I would, yeah, silt fence to be, so that,
They can reuse it.
yeah,
Probably pretty bad now.
They're not gonna reuse it.
no, it's an end of the landfill,
Right,
but
just not our land.
yeah, so that was.
I use it in my garden.
Use it for
I use plastic, yeah.
all right, and then the other issue I saw on site is the replication area looks good. We got a lot of plants growing there. It looks very healthy, except there's some bittersweet that's really starting to get rooted in there. And so maybe they could just go and dig out the bittersweet. And then the last thing I had a question on, Mark answered right back about today, and that's all set, about the deed restriction for the 5,000 square feet. So that's all set. So it's just these few remaining items that need to be done. So we could, you know, hold off on voting on this till another meeting.
What do we
Dave, or
vote?
you could vote, well, you're issuing a certificate of compliance for the whole project to be
Oh.
done.
Well, let's wait until.
Yeah, let's,
It's a big project. Right?
Yeah, it is a big.
Any questions or comments from the commission? Or any questions or comments from the audience? So Mary, what's your suggestion to have them get rid of the bittersweet and get rid of the extras materials on site?
Yes, so they need to get rid of the bittersweet and the silt fence and actually there's another spot, just a small thing, and I forgot to write that down, where they're mowing that they shouldn't be mowing, but they can. We'll just write a note on that. I think the mowing company, they just need a fence. They're so used to mowing whatever's been mowed that they don't even see that they're going past a wetland marker.
Dave, is it okay to fix those items that Mary listed?
The silt fence, definitely. I'm not quite sure what to do about the bittersweet. That's something that's kind of come in after construction, after we're basically all done. And I don't recall seeing anything about removing invasives. So I don't know, is it just a matter of pulling some of these plants up, or, you know, how big is the area, I guess?
Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say that it's super huge. It was just, it may just be a few vines. I don't think it would take too long. You know, a couple hours for one person, I think maybe just to dig out. It's not a huge area. And they're starting, it's funny, you can see where the replication area is because there's a couple lovely river birch that are planted there that there aren't any other river birch anywhere around there.
Yeah.
They're thriving and they look well, but one is getting completely covered by the bittersweet. So I think it would just, you know, take an hour or so of digging out those roots, and then we can just let it rest for now. But it is true, the the order does not have strict requirements about what is considered a successful replication, so. That is true, the order was not specific on that.
I mean, if it's just that small area, I can't see where they would have a real issue with that. So
Yeah.
I will bring that back to the developer and inform them of that, and I'm sure they can get somebody to take care of it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else in the audience or the commission have questions or comments? Now, Mary, what would your recommendation be at this point?
I think we can just, have it maybe on our next agenda. They don't necessarily, unless, Dave, maybe do you guys need a month, whatever you think you need to get that stuff cleaned up? And then we can,
Yeah, what is it, every 2 weeks, the next,
2 weeks would be our next one.
can I get back to you tomorrow about that? Or,
Certainly can
can we
schedule that. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, let me make a few phone calls tomorrow and see if we can get somebody out there within the next week.
okay, great.
Thank you. And just a note, for people who are just coming in, please make sure you sign in the sheet so we know that you're there for records.
I'll sign the attendance.
Mary, did 6Ps already get?
Are you here for 6Ps?
Yeah,
Um,
I was trying to get on, but the host wouldn't let me in for some reason, I don't know why.
I think we had a different links posted, yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah, actually, we have a little time now, we can talk about that, if you wanna come in and, Chris, do you wanna take them for 2 minutes?
Can we re-discuss 6Ps?
Yeah, so the main thing, did we vote to issue a negative? I think we did.
oh, did you? Oh, you
Yes.
did, okay.
So the only questions were, we did have so for the homeowner, they have some brush that's in the
Yes.
end to take care of, and then I don't know if they're, at all willing to put bounds in at like the 30-foot around their yard. It's something to think about with them. I think the house may be being sold.
The house is being sold, yeah, they're trying to, it failed the Title V inspection, so they're being the system.
And I'm not,
I did talk to the homeowner this afternoon. He can get rid of that brush and
Yeah.
take care of that. He wasn't sure about the bounds because he says that stream seems to be constantly changing. Every heavy rains, it moves. The yard used to be a lot bigger. He's
Right.
lost quite a bit to the yard, so. I don't know, it's pretty obvious where everything is down there on the mountain.
Some of the stream is practically on the edge of the yard, so
Right,
can they pull them along a bit?
well, the stream's already pulled along back, is what he's saying. The stream used to be further away. And now it's
So it's
coming out,
coming closer.
because he's in the floodplain as well. His
Right, it's-
backyard
it's
floods.
Right. They don't have to.
Okay.
The house,
right.
it's not, it's been there long enough that it doesn't fall under our lot. It was simply a suggestion from us, if they could do something to sort of protect the wetlands as best as possible, but they are not required to do that.
So when you say bounds, what, you talking like the concrete? bound?
Yeah, we have the concrete bounds and has a thing on top.
So you have the markers?
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
So that's just something, if, we'd like them to consider that.
okay, will do.
Okay.
All righty,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have 7:30, Newton 0 Warren Street, replacement of a park area, creation of a park and footpath path, continued from June 20th.
So I believe we'll be joining as panelists.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Carolyn Gorse. I'm with BSC Group. I'm here on behalf of Matt Byrne, who spoke to you at the last meeting and described the project. He wasn't able to make it to the meeting today, so I'm covering for him. I'm also joined by Dom Rinaldi from BSC
Hey.
Group. And as I believe this conversation was left, we were waiting on a DEP file number, which we have received. And let's see, that number for the records is 3110827. And DEP left 2 technical comments on the application. The first one being they recommend the applicant and commission verify the presumed perennial nature of the stream located on the subject parcel based on review of the most recent USGS maps, as it appears to be mapped as an intermittent stream and would therefore not have a riverfront area resource associated with it. And then the riverfront area associated with Center Brook appears to fall off the locus map of all the proposed work. So our response to that was the USGS maps were very unclear. I think the position of that stream fell right on top of a title, or there were some words there. So when we did investigate it, it looks like it could be an intermittent stream rather than a perennial, but for the purposes of efficiency and protecting as many resource areas as we can, we are willing to leave it as riverfront area and leave the 200-foot buffer on the site, or we could mention it in some kind of order of conditions going forward that we treat it as an intermittent. But
I know when I looked into that, in stream stats, it doesn't have a big enough watershed, but it does have a big enough flow. And one of the neighbors mentioned with the last meeting that they've never seen it dry up. So that was interesting information. So we may as well leave it.
yeah, that's what we were thinking as well. And looking at the pictures, it's large enough. So if you guys are okay with that, we'll continue to refer to it as a perennial stream for this project and keep the riverfront area.
Sounds good.
Okay, the second comment, we'll have Dom, I have Dom to help explain it more. The comment itself was the applicant should provide a test pit data in the location of the proposed bioretention area to demonstrate adequate separation from groundwater, consistent with the design and siting criteria for bioretention areas found in Volume 2, Chapter 2 of the Stormwater Handbook.
So good evening, as Caroline said, I'm Dominic Rinaldi, Senior Civil Engineer with BSC. I believe we kind of gave you the overview of the drainage system at the last hearing. It's very simple. We don't have any new impervious surfaces. The redevelopment actually ends up with a couple 100 square foot reduction to impervious surface. And the stone dust walkway and the porous paver plaza of the path and the pocket park aren't impervious surfaces. The only reason we have this bioretention area and the swale is because right now the area is wooded, and we're clearing some of that woodland and we're putting the path down, and it just results in woods don't have a lot of runoff. These still don't have a lot of runoff, but they have more runoff than woods. So the swale and the bioretention area are actually just there to accommodate peak flow reduction. We're not actually using it for infiltration. We don't need additional infiltration. We're not concerned with that. And the test pit requirement and the separation of groundwater is really about infiltration and compliance with standard 3. But because we don't have new impervious surfaces, we're already complying with standard 3. So all it's there for is to take a little of the peak flow rate off the top and meet standard 2. We certainly would be willing to entertain a condition that required a test pit prior to the start of construction, just to confirm things there. But we're very comfortable based on the information we have, which includes a few about 2 foot deep hand augers during the wetland delineation and the grades compared to the stream, that really groundwater is not going to be up into the bioretention area. It might be a little below it. It might not be a full 2 foot of separation. But again, because we're not worried about the infiltrating capacity of it, we're just worried about it having a little bit of volume and then overflowing you know, at a lower rate. I don't think that a test pit's really warranted here. You know, as I said, certainly we'd entertain a condition to do one, you know, at some point in the future prior to the start of construction.
Thank you. Do you have any questions from the commission? Or Mary?
I'm comfortable with leaving the test pit the way it is. The last open-ended thing from the commission was Mike's comments about the erosion along the stream bank. And I believe I was talking with Mike Antonellis about that today, and they are not sure if there's funding for that as part of this project.
Yeah, I don't know if they're on or not, if Mike Antonellis is on, or anyone else from the town. Otherwise,
I know he tried.
there he is.
There he is.
Mike, go right ahead. I see you have your hand up. So Mike, the floor is yours. And it says that you're muted right now.
Hello, it just let me on as a panelist. Yeah, so what Mary was saying is that, I mean, that's correct. We don't have funding for that specifically. We don't have funding for any of the project right now. We only have funding for this portion of the project, which is the design and the permitting of it. I discussed this with Doug, Dominic, and Joe Layden, town manager, either yesterday or the day before. It was our feeling that providing that was just kind of a big unknown as far as what that would be included as a part of. Obviously we don't know the cost of what that would or the cost that would add to the overall cost of this project is one thing. The other thing is we felt it was a little outside of the parameters of this particular project. And then the third thing was that it's actually that is technically on the church's property, is where that suggestion was located. Obviously, we're happy to pursue that in the future as potentially maybe even like a phase 2 or something along for this project. It's something maybe that can be pursued through an MVP grant or something like that. So we're happy to, take that note and run with it in the future, but to not tie this project to that improvement.
Thank you, Joe. Do you have any questions or comments from the audience? Please just tell us your name and where you are from.
Yeah, Beth, hopefully you can talk now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm representing the United Parish of Upton with Sandra Ng. And to Mike's last comment, I just had a question of clarification. What did you mean that what was on the church property? The stream or something else?
Through the chair, if I could clarify, there was a requested improvement to I'll call the bank of the brook that the commission expressed concern of continuing erosion from the brook hitting that bank. As pictured right there, apparently. And so it's my understanding, talking to BSC, that particular area is located on the church's property.
Okay, so you're talking about the bank that abuts the church parking lot.
Yes, not the trail. Obviously, the trail is, and through the chair again, the trail is intended, obviously with cooperation to the church, to extend onto the church's property. But there wasn't any discussion relative to obviously improvements with regard to the stream or brook and how it exists today. So.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I would agree. Yeah, I'd be concerned with erosion.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Any other questions or comments from the audience? this point, Mary is
Somebody
Oh,
here.
Yeah, and I do have one more question. This is Beth.
oh, please go ahead, Beth.
Okay, so it's my understanding, and I'm a layperson, I'm not a civil engineer, so bear with me here. It's my understanding that if we did a test pit, it would uncover if there was any like buried structures or soil contamination, etc. And I just wondered, and you might know that there is an auto shop right by the stream there, and I would just be wanting to know that, you know, there's no illegal dumping or anything going in there.
So for Betsy or Mary,
I guess through the chair, I'm Don Rinaldi again. Yeah, so just to clarify, like the test pit would be relatively small location of the bioretention area, and it would really, I mean, if we happen to see something, you know, we would see something if it's there in that location, but it would really be the intent of the test pit would be to verify where seasonal high groundwater is, how high up seasonal high groundwater is. So, you know, it wouldn't be like a full-on environmental study. Again, if something happens to be in the spot, then, you know, you dig a hole, you see it, but.
does that help, Beth?
It does.
Yeah, and
And-
we haven't seen anything, Doug Morse from the BSC group. We haven't seen anything that would indicate that the auto shop has done any type of dumping in any way out there. It looks pretty undisturbed, to be honest.
Thank you, Doug. Any other questions or comments from the audience or the commission or Mary?
Yeah, we have someone in the audience here. Please say your name.
Good afternoon, Dick Henderson, 20 Brook Street. I first want to say that I am in favor of the project, but I have a number of questions. I don't know if this board is aware that in 1938, School Street washed out because of the water coming down here. It washed out part of Church Street. They put the granite back in, built up. Now, if you think of what High Street was back there, the amount of water. Again, in 1955, they had an exceptional amount of water down in this particular area. The town did High Street and Hopkinton Road, and they did not do a hydrological or hydraulic study on the amount of water that would be brought to this location, which they should have been. Everything from Warren Street to Cross Street now comes down through this drainage. Okay? This is in the FEMA A&E. A&E is the 1% 100-year. In the storm that we had in December, it far exceeded that. I have the photos that do that. I requested the town last March go in and clean this area because I was concerned about the flooding that could happen. They were granted a permit. They went in sometime in November, and they only took what was advised by the Conservation Commission, which I believe at the time was not enough. They should have cleaned it. They wanted the conservation at the time, wanted it left the way it was, pristine, and now we want to clean it out. We had the storm of December. It only dumped 3 inches of rain, which is not an exceptional amount. But again, I have photos that it far exceeded the A&E in this particular area. It also brought the water table up enough so it caused problems with United Parish. We pumped for 8 hours at the church with 2 pumps. Hadn't happened in 35 years or more. What I'm getting at is if this project moves forward, the town should take steps to replace the granite. The underneath the Route 140 is plugged from the granite that's fallen over. There's stumps in there, and that's what backs the water up. I would certainly not want to put money into this project unless that was done. The town should look to that. I've spoken to the town manager about replacing the pipe under 140 because that is stone box culvert. They're going to spend a lot of money. Without an H&H study, we don't know how much water is coming down there, but there's a significant amount more water than they ever had. When you're talking about the washout at the corner, coming underneath Church Street, that's just recent, and that's because of the exceptional water coming from town. If you do that, and I'll speak to the consultant, they need to put a head wall, they need to put wing walls in there. That's only gonna continue. That has exacerbated the last 3 or 4 storms. It keeps washing that corner. You want to have 12 feet from the top of that slope to the other property line, so it's gonna take a wall or construction there to do that. Again, I'm not saying anything that you might not know, but there's a significant amount more water coming down there today than there was 3 years ago. And if we're gonna put money into an A&E district, we ought to try and get above that 100-year 1% that flooded probably 2 times in 2 years. So, any questions?
When you say the water's coming from the church, do you know what direction that was from? Was it from the street coming in?
No, I think the water table came up. I mean,
It's in the basement?
yeah, it came up, yeah. I pumped through the fire department for 8 hours, about 30 to 40,000 gallons. They hadn't pumped there since the addition had been put on. And if you look at the elevation where the water settled in this particular area, it would have been, I didn't take the shots, but it would have been equal to what's that? When this water dropped down, we stopped pumping at the church. So
What I don't know enough about what you're proposing so far now, but the water table, how would what you're saying affect the groundwater level?
because of the outflow, there wasn't enough outflow coming out of this project. There's far more water coming from High Street with all those catch basins into this area. The outflow can't take that.
So you're saying it was backing up?
It was backing up. I have photos. If somebody wants to see them, I can email. It was backing up. So when that water table got up that high, it flooded the church. It flooded the people's property across the street. And I think it's the town should look to replace and repair that culvert that goes under 140. I've got a great picture that shows the restriction. There's a stump right in the middle of the drainage. It narrows down to 2 feet by 48 feet. That's not enough what's being proposed. Now, this project comes ahead of or behind the High Street project. And I'm not faulting anybody, but I've been doing this for a lot of years, and most of the time you have to do an H&H study if you're gonna add significant amount of water into a drainage. That's a small drainage area, but it takes all of Pratt Hill. I grew up on Pratt Hill. I can tell you that whole hill where all the drains come down, they come across High Street before Cross Street. There's another one before Stoddard Street, and all that water, and you would be amazed. Next time we get a heavy rain, go over and look at the stream between the town hall, or I will send photos of what I took at the time.
So what you're stating though, I'm not sure it's part of our purview other than we protect the wetlands. Like, we don't have anything to do with whether or not the town puts in a new culvert or digs it up. I understand your point, but would that be for a different group?
I'm not sure. I think if you're gonna be building an A&E, that you need to look at what the outflow is, and right now the outflow is plugged, so. I don't know if you can build an A&E at this point, can you? And especially with the A&E is being compromised with 3 inches of rain.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I know we can't tell the town they have to build it.
Right, so, and you're absolutely right, that was one of my comments on the file, is that most of the trail is within the floodplain.
Yeah, no
It's
question.
just, it is, and so, you know, this is the town's project, the town does this, you know, they have to sell it, they have to get funding or whatever. That, I don't think they can change it, I don't think they can really get it out of the floodplain because of the topography, so it's either they build it as it is and deal with the fact that it might flood, or, you know.
Right,
Yeah, so.
but I think it would behoove you to understand promote the rebuilding of that granite culvert. I mean, it's fallen right in. There's about a 2-foot flow there now. If you get 6 inches of rain, you're gonna put 2 feet of water in the town hall. I mean, I've looked at the elevations, the water's gonna come up out of there and it's gonna go right into the basement of town hall. When they put the rotary in, the elevation's gonna be back this way more. And when that comes up, and it will do it, I will guarantee you to do it. I've been to thousands of these sites where you'd say it could never happen, but it will happen. No question. That was just a minute of what can happen with 3 inches of rain. Wait till we got what we had in Diane with 12 inches of rain, and you see what happens. It'll flood. Just as you know, High Street and School Street. I rode a boat there in that strait in 1955. I lived right there, and we were able to row a boat. And I'd say that would never happen, but I think probably what I'm looking at is a mitigation issue that we try and mitigate what will be the potential problem that will happen and what will damage this if it is. And I think that should be incorporated into any repair work or any construction that happens now.
This is Chris. I have a question. Was the DPW consulted with any of this that's being discussed?
This is DPW. Have you discussed any of this with the DPW?
I have, yes.
How about the people doing the project?
I don't know if Mike wants to speak to this.
Sella has her hand raised.
Marcella.
Yeah, a couple of questions. To do anything under one, that affects 140, that's a state road. So it's not anything, I think we as a town can't do anything there. It has to be approached from the state's perspective, from how I understand this. And since there is going to be an improvement to that area with the roundabout and whatnot, could the state be approached to improve this area as part of their project?
It's my understanding that the DPW director and the town manager have approached them, and the state is not interested in doing it at this time. They're gonna do an overlay, they're gonna do a millings and overlay, they're not gonna do a lot of drainage. I can tell you that part of that is stone box culvert, granite. There's another portion that they replaced some of the pipe. I can tell you there's a steel plate over that in some area across 140 that collapsed 20 years ago when they just put it in and put concrete. So that may be it. I'm more concerned about the initial entry of the water from this particular area that's been narrowed down dramatically. Just walk over and look at it. There's a stump right in the middle, and I will send photos out to whoever wants, and you can look at them. I think that area should be cleaned up. I think it'll benefit the town from future flooding. And I don't know if it's part of this group or the town manager, the town planner is on. He's keenly aware of this. I've had discussions with him. But I would vehemently argue against any money for this project unless that was corrected, because I think it would damage this project down the road in a large amount of water. Just the 3 inches, you can see pictures, it's over the toe of slope of where you want to be with 6 or 8 inches. So if that drainage was open up, it would probably drop that elevation 6 to 12 inches, which would benefit everybody.
Mike Antonello, so you have something to add to that discussion?
No, not really. I just, I mean, yeah, infrastructure improvements are a great idea. There's obviously a desire or a need for those improvements. As was pointed out, it's going to take a lot of coordination between the state and other stakeholders, obviously, and potentially the church, as we're talking about their property as well. But it's something absolutely that should be considered, and that I'm happy to talk at length more with the town manager, our consultants, and just figuring out how we proceed after receiving order of conditions for this project. If those are things that we should, should we be phasing this project a bit more? Should we be looking for funding for those things before proceeding with this or at the same time, you know, those are good questions for us to address going forward.
Thank you. Mary, is there any way that these items can be put into the order of conditions? They can be addressed.
We can certainly, I can certainly mention the concerns. I wouldn't want to say that it would be, we can include this discussion in the order and under the findings. And I imagine that this will come up when the funding for this project, it'll also probably be part of that discussion. So we can recommend, the board can recommend that the town look at these other issues as well. I think we can do that. We wouldn't want to require them because this is just part of this project.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Or questions?
I'm not looking to replace the pipe on the 140 because I think the state is adamant. What I'm looking for is the entryway that goes underneath 140, that gets rebuilt, that gets some wing walls to give us some support. And the granite that's currently down in the waterway be brought up and put. I think that would solve a lot of the problems. You're gonna need a wing wall there. In the same way at the other end that's washed out, you'll need a wing wall and a wall there. I think the consultants have already identified that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any comments? Dominic or Douglas or Caroline?
No, the only thing else we were gonna bring up is just the more administrative things that came out at the last meeting, the abutters notification you have. And also we included the planting plan with the updated plant counts, which you requested, so. And including the DEP number, those were the three items from the commission that we needed to address.
Thank you. So at this point, would you like to close the hearing?
Yes.
Okay. We'll take a vote and we have a motion from the commission to close the hearing.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
And so all in favor, Chris, I.
Paul, aye. David, aye.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
So that's a unanimous vote of the commission present. And what I would say is, we'll definitely make sure these comments are included in the findings and the order of conditions.
So
thank you for
thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, now. Almost 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, 1071 Parker Road. And continuation from June 26th, in church on the new single family home and recognition of an emergency home.
It's here. Excellent.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Yeah, hi Christine, this is Mark. John Federico is here any second. He just called me saying, walk him through the door.
You guys can see if you want.
Okay.
There's even up here,
Up here, there's chairs over here also.
Mary, do we have the DP number? 71 Parker Road.
Yes, we do have a DEP number for 71 Crockett Road. Yeah, they had a few minor comments and we don't really have a spot to present. If you want, you can come up here and filter what your wherever you like.
Okay,
And if you realize, do you have new plans or do you want me to?
I do have a new plan. I'm sorry I did not get you a PDF for the meeting. But those were the green cards for the meeting. And I know that there was a little bit of confusion trying to read the plan. So I did 2 exhibit plans just showing fully existing conditions and fully proposed conditions to hopefully alleviate anything. Just real quick for the DEP comments. First one was about verifying the floodplain boundary versus anything that we had for the high water mark. They did not coincide with one another, but in terms of any portion of the site that we're proposing work in, we would not be conflicting with anything on the floodplain side. If you didn't need a revised plan that showed that, we can always have that boundary added in. We are in floodplain zone A, so there is no base flood elevation that's been specified for that. And then the other DEP comment was about extending erosion control along the northern property line so that nothing circumvented by the shed here. I just have it proposed going all the way across that northern property line because I do know we have a little bit of grading that's occurring up there. There is, if I'm recalling correctly, a fence or a slight retaining wall on the neighboring property. So there is no concerns with any of that potential runoff or erosion crossing property lines, but just to be consistent with everything, we can have some type of erosion control barrier there. Outside of that, in terms of comments that were brought up during the meeting, one of them was for the green cards, adding in a construction entrance. If you would like to have a detail included for that, we can. I'm just assuming it just be typical, 3 to 6 inch stone size. They already have a portion of the existing gravel driveway that's there, so they might just build off of that with what they have for their construction entrance. And then as far as some of the other comments that we had, we were looking to get some naturalization and landscape areas added to the plan. So we do have a couple locations around the house that we're proposing some actual landscaping features. Mark and Ken will be working through with either their house builder or landscape architect to potentially add in some more. I know they do want to beautify the property in general. But we also added in existing planting beds and I believe, is it arborvitae's, Mark, if I'm correct, along the northern property line?
There's already quite a bit of greenery along that side. Quite a bit of trees. You might have saw that area over there, some large trees as well as small trees in between.
We do have that now reflected over here. And then I also added in a couple of the existing trees that are going to be remaining on site, particularly up by the waterfront, as well as a hatch that we're calling out for the landscaping and naturalization areas. I believe comments from the last meeting were about 1/3 or so of the total waterfront area. That was calculated about 150 feet or so. Currently, the proposal through these 3 locations is about 55 total feet, here, and here. So we are making up about 37% or so of that water frontage with some additional landscaping plantings out there. The final comment that we had from the last meeting was trying to push the house a little bit further away than what we had proposed. Previously, it was about 22.2 feet, if I'm recalling correctly, with some modifications we were able to make on the architectural side, as well as how we were locating the house. We are now proposing 25 feet off of anything in the water's edge. I believe that was the consensus that we were coming to towards the end of the last meeting. And then also with our paver patio area, we were able to reduce that down a little bit as well. So instead of the about 9 to 10 feet before the edge of the water, we're now proposing about 15, almost 16 feet there to have for grass to filter and anything else along those lines. So I believe for the most part, everything has been addressed unless you would like to have a detail or anything added there, but I'll kick it to the rest of the board for any comments, or Mary, if you have any comments. And I'll definitely be providing you with PDFs a little bit later tonight or first thing tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. How about Marcella? I see you have a hand up.
I hate to make you repeat what you just did, but we saw nothing of that at home. And
I apologize.
if you could just summarize with, I need the visual aid. So
Sure.
I don't
just
know if it's even going to be very visible. I can't make out what's on that. So
Okay.
Should we bring up the old plans? I don't think
If it helps, I can point out exactly what some of those changes were.
I can't see what you've got there anyway. It doesn't, it doesn't
Okay.
show up on camera, so never
I
mind.
apologize for that.
I just can't, I can't make a decision on this based on what I know or don't know.
Understood. So to recap, we went from a lake setback of 22.2 feet as previously proposed. And currently with some extra jogs, we were able to put in to the footprint and some additional shifting of the footprint. We were able to get a total of 25.1 feet off of that lake edge. In addition to that, we are proposing currently 3 areas for some additional landscaping and naturalization along the waterfront. The linear feet for those locations will be a total of 55 feet, or about 37% of what the total frontage is along that property. And then our plan did add in a construction entrance as requested. We are also showing some of the additional landscaping features, particularly 3 large, beautiful trees along the lake edge, as well as some existing screening and tree line that we had along the northern property line, just to kind of help illustrate that the site won't be fully bare or just completely grass throughout. And then around the building footprint itself, we do have a couple of locations shown where we'll be proposing some landscaping. That hasn't been fully finalized yet, but I do know that the clients will be adding in, you know, other types of plantings as they're getting all that finalized with their architect and builder.
I had a question. It looks like one of your new areas, or one of the areas you're proposing to have natural vegetation is near the shed.
Yes.
Is there already natural vegetation there?
So as far as everything on the site goes, there already is across the board grass throughout the whole area. But particularly we were calling these out as those naturalization areas. I don't know if you might require a specific type of planting there, or if you're just looking for maybe something like some extra shrubs or things like that. But if I have to expand that area a little bit, I can always shift that if there was, you know, some existing stuff. But primarily it was going to be going around this tree area here. We have some that's going in this tree area here. And then I believe there was one other tree. I believe it could possibly be hidden by either this one or this one here.
So John, I can jump in and just kind of answer Mary's question. So there is a third tree that's on the water side of the shed that you see there in front of the cottage, and that area is already natural.
It is kind of natural.
Yes, yeah.
Did that help, Marcella? Do you want to see the plans?
A little.
Yes,
but I just wanted to get more of a visual sense of what, you know, going from 20 feet to 25 feet, or I think it was 20 or 22 feet.
That's current.
And I just wanted to get a sense of what that looked like. I don't know if how much we discussed it last time. I think someone did mention it, that more of the area right along the water be allowed to be naturalized, you know, convert from lawn to something, you know, maybe some plantings, but just not mow it. Is that something that's on the table?
Yes, that was the approximate 55 feet that we were proposing, primarily in front of the proposed accessory structure. But if we did need to add it in a few other areas or possibly break it up a little bit, I'm more than happy to fully review that with the clients and get a copy back over to Mary. Right now, we were proposing to naturalize about 37% or so of that total frontage along the lake.
Okay, thank you.
I think sweet pepper was a good plant there. And this is Chris. I have one comment, because at the last meeting, someone mentioned that in the future might be a proposal to put a garage somewhere. I was wondering if a box could be inserted where the garage could go.
So we do have the future garage proposed on the opposite side of the property. In terms of location, we are aware that we will be having to get variances through ZBA for that, as well as for proposed structures on the main side. The setbacks that we were dealing with is primarily ledge that's right off of Crockett Road. The existing septic system and having to maintain anywhere from 12 to approximately 20 feet, depending on elevation wise where that garage was falling. And then also if there were to grade in anything for a future driveway or like a stabilized type of driveway, we did want to make sure that we had some space to make it gradual enough that it can be accessible, just because it does come up relatively quickly from the edge of the roadway. So that is proposed in the far back portion of the property. There is a small portion that clips the 200-foot buffer, and we may have to do some clearing of trees there. But I'll let that sit with Mark and Kim on what their exact timeline would be for something like that if they ultimately do want to go through with the garage.
Okay, thank you. Marcella, question.
Actually, I forgot to take my hand down. Thank you.
Other questions from Mary or the question? And questions from the audience?
And I know I didn't cover it with this plan, but if anybody did want me just to show the existing conditions exhibit or proposed conditions exhibit where it might be a little cleaner to see, I can do that as well for anybody in the audience. I'm sorry for the folks at home.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've addressed, from my perspective, most of the comments aside from, it would take a big deal to move the house further back, but that is, the house is basically pretty much in the same position. I believe the old house is about 25 feet and then you had moved it a little
Yes,
closer.
foundation
it's-
is about 25 feet or
Yeah.
so. And then if we count the deck overhangs or anything for that accessory structure, the closest point was about 13.7 feet. So there's going to be a substantially more green area for filtration and grass area naturalization, anything along those lines than what's currently up on the site. And then also, at least on the upper side by the road, we're going to be cutting down substantially in some of the gravel area that's up there as well. Everything through here is proposed to be returned to grass. Obviously, anything on this section here will be getting restored back to grass. So a lot of additional improvements just outside of the building setbacks itself.
One thing to add, which may be interesting to know, is the water level on this pond is relayed by a dam, so the flooding would be minimal.
And I believe when the survey did go out for the site, at the time of the survey, water level was about 344. I know they did pick up a high water mark out there, around 348.5 or so. So that falls right at where the wall is. All existing grades on site above the wall are about 350 or higher. So I'm not anticipating any sort of issues or anything like that.
Thank you. And you have other questions from the commission or the audience or the applicants? Mary, is there anything else you feel we need?
Yeah, no. The boards, please.
Okay, so for the applicant and the engineer, are you desiring to close the hearing now?
Yes, if there's no other questions or comments, we would like to respectfully close closing.
For the commission, let's take a motion. The motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
I do that.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, aye.
Do we have Alan today or no?
He can't vote tonight, Chris.
Oh, that's right.
He hasn't
So-
been sworn yet.
Okay, so we have a unanimous vote on the commission. Amendment. Yes. Close the hearing and Mary will issue or as she has. So we're all set.
Great, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary, I'll make sure, because I do have to walk with the office, that I send you some PDFs tonight. Would you like this as a hard copy now? I also have one extra hard copy with me.
It's just one, yeah, a hard copy, right? I don't need a board.
Oh. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want the board. I don't want the board. Storage.
So we have this in 1047 Main Street. Chapter 40B, multifamily residence, 60 units, continuing from 26.
Okay. Yeah, if you need anything else, Mary, just let me know and we'll make sure we get it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Mary, we'll leave this one to you to start off.
That their posters here and just getting ready to get set up. And we can share.
Yes.
Share the plans.
Yeah, so we can, Peter has, here, we can also share it, screen could be helpful. I believe Andrew from Goddard is on Zoom, so if maybe we can.
You can share it.
Yeah, if you can make him a panelist, he may be able to show and kind of point better to what Peter is talking about. Yeah, so. Andrew there, maybe raise your hand. Should be there.
Yeah, we were having troubles with the logins. Not be logged on, right? Yeah, what are you doing?
He just like they've not, I'm in a meeting yet. I said my share.
There. Oh, that's not my side, yeah.
Okay.
These are extras. You can make whatever you want.
Anonymous will be good.
Nice try.
Okay.
He's able to get on soon.
Yeah. I guess we just, yeah, he'll join in a second. I guess, I know we got the peer review back. We really appreciate it getting back so fast. Who is the peer reviewer here? Thank you so much for getting it back. I know it's the 4th of July and everything. We really appreciate the timing. We have some responses to the clarifications that were asked from your recommendations. It's just how the board would like to do it. Would you like peer reviewer to go, or would you like and then us to follow, or would you like us to go? Totally up to the board. So.
And I'll leave that up to Mary.
Why don't we start with a peer review? Would you like to start? Sure.
Want me to start now?
Yeah, do you want me to put your this is a continuation. Share your work on the screen or
Yeah, if you could share the last page there.
Yep.
Probably the easiest.
Yeah.
And Andrew's in, so he's on now.
He's on.
Would you like to sit here? Sorry.
I'm good here.
Oh.
I think it's work for everybody. That's it. Yeah, if you could just raise it up a little.
It's not good.
That's good, that's good. That's
Okay.
good.
We have a pointer somewhere.
Okay.
I can try to use the mouse. I actually tried it. We bought it. I haven't tried it.
I don't think it works on the screen. I was at a meeting last night. It doesn't work. It works on the walls, but it doesn't work on the screen. It's too bad. Oh, that's all right.
There you go. Get them just for a while with them.
Okay, we all set?
Yes.
Okay, for the record, Margaret Bacon, I'm a civil engineer and also a professional wetland scientist, and I work for Ecosystem Solutions, and we were asked by the Upton Conservation Commission to do a peer review for this project as it pertains to the Wetlands Protection Act. So basically what I did, I've been out to the site several times, walked the site several times when it was raining and when it was dry to get a familiarity of the site. And in my report here, I just kind of highlighted the areas that jumped out at me that I thought needed a little more clarification. So my first thought on this, I know the town's zoning board engineer did the stormwater review, Stantec. So I only looked at the stormwater from, you know, where they say 20,000 feet. I didn't really get into all the numbers, functions and things like that. Somebody else already did that. But one of the things that came up with me when I was looking at this site is we know all the water flows this way down towards School Street. And one of my concerns was, you know, everything's very tight on this lot. We don't, there's not much flexibility. So as far as the stormwater goes, I know we do stormwater calculations and we hope that, you know, the numbers are all right and they all work during construction, but, you know, sometimes they don't. You know, due to various factors, whether it's, you know, big storm events, back-to-back storm events, or the infiltration basin's not working. So I kind of looked at what was going on in School Street, because all this water's flowing to School Street. Under these proposed conditions, they're dumping into these basins, going into this wetland, and there's a stream over here. I don't know on whose property it's on, whether it's on the site parcel or no, but it does come and it then flows down onto School Street next to number 6. I don't know if anybody looked at these culverts. Okay.
Yeah.
So my problem with it, and then same with this thing here, here's another drainage. This drainage doesn't go to this culvert here across Main Street. This drainage all goes here and then flows out next to I think it's house number 4. And here also right next to the street, they have this big 24-inch plastic pipe that goes into the town's drainage system. So both of these culverts, I don't know what happens on the other side because they've all been buried. And I don't know if they've been modified, you know, or you know, things change over the years. Basically, I've worked for the highway departments and I know a lot of times 20, 30 years ago, trying to get this culvert here, or somebody wants to build a bigger yard and they slap on another pipe or whatever. So I look at this and I say, I don't really know what the capacity of these culverts are. And so that's one of my questions. What are the capacities of these culverts down here on School Street if this doesn't function as designed? And I think that somebody has to really, like I said, this one goes into the School Street drainage system, and then where does it go? It's a 24-inch inlet, but it probably dumps into a 12-inch pipe. I don't know. And then where does it go? So those are things, to me, those were the biggies that really should be taken a look at. So that, you know, heaven forbid, you know, come construction and you know, something didn't work and we get all this water flowing down towards School Street. We want to make sure that the school, the town's drainage structures are going to be able to handle it. And then, you know, when in my, so I was out there walking around. So you can tell when it rains that obviously this drainage all goes here and it dumps into the funeral home's property at 45 Pickering. And you can see they have a ditch there that it dumps now into this drainage system that somebody put in, a couple of pipes. And then it dumps out over here. And there was another wetland over here. Okay, I don't know if this affects the property or not, but I'm just pointing it out. There is another wetland off the property limits, and how big it is or not, and if there's any buffer zone impacts or not, I don't know, but I'm just mentioning it, pointing it out to you. No, I don't know if you want me to keep going through my list, or maybe if you have responses before I move on, or.
I think probably the best way, you kind of go through your list, and because we have kind of responses, some from our wetland scientists, some from our engineer, and then we
Okay.
kind of go down and go through them all. I think that would be the best way to do it. Response.
Okay, and then the D comments, DEP comments, had a bunch of comments that they would like to have addressed. One was the filing fee, and I know those filing fees get kind of vague the way they have it listed, but filing fees are for certain types of projects. We should take a look at that. We thought that the filing fee that you included was a little on the low side. So we brought up what we thought, and then it'd really be up to the commission to, agree with that or not. The wetland resource areas, like I mentioned, off the project limits. I don't know where that sits on the project. Okay, and I know the NOI talks about an intermittent stream that flows this way, but I don't think that happens. There's a high point. And this is a man-made ditch. So I think years ago, they tried to get this water to go that way, but I don't think it does. It's right about here, there's a high point, you notice that? So everything goes that way.
That ditch is not intermittent. The water is behind it. If you go on the other side of 140, right there.
Yeah.
You'll see it flows constantly.
Well, I tell you, I was out there the other day.
It does. We'll get Kevin down here and he'll tell you.
That's one. I think you should continue with it.
Okay, well.
You didn't open it up to them, so.
I was out here and like I said, this was dry as can be. There was no scar marks or anything or any evidence of stormwater flow. But just my observation. And if you go back this way, you can see the flow here and you just follow it all the way down and it goes right up to School Street. Okay, those are the wetland resource areas, and then the buffer zone, we did have something in our write-up, because there is quite a bit of buffer zone impacts as a result of this job. You see the wetlands, and then there's quite a bit of work in the buffer zone, and I think based on your NOI numbers, I think the buffer zone impacts, about 50% of the buffer zone will be impacted as a result of this project. And so what is the significance of that? I think somebody needs to take a look at that and, as it pertains to the interests of the act. What is the significance of removing all these trees and all that development on these two wetlands here? I think we described in our comments, suggestions regarding long-term wetland impacts, and somebody needs to evaluate the different interests in how this project will or will not affect the wetlands due to buffer zone impacts. Stormwater analysis. As mentioned, I just kind of did a general overview. I wasn't going to get into all the hard numbers because somebody else already did that. But my big concern is just as a qualifier, I designed stormwater systems for over 20 years. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I see them work. I see sometimes when they don't work. So I've looked at mine too. I've learned from. I usually learn more from the ones that they have problems with afterwards, and you try to avoid that because if these structures don't function as designed, then you have problems down here, and you try to avoid that. So these basins here, so I see there's really not a lot of room for extra capacity here because we have such a tight site. And they are infiltration basins, they're all infiltration basins, correct? Mm-hmm. And so they are a high maintenance. Infiltration basins are high maintenance to make sure that they function long-term. And so that's something that, has to be stressed and ensured that, once this thing is built 2 or 3 years later, these things stay maintained, otherwise they clog up and they don't infiltrate. And then these basins fill up a lot faster than they're supposed to. Same with the underground structure, same thing. I believe these are for all the roof runoff, and I had a comment about trying to keep the organics out of those underground chambers. A lot of times these underground chambers, out of sight, out of mind, and that's what happens 5 or 10 years down the road. people forget about them because they're not that easy to maintain unless there's something else that I don't know about. But it's, so you want to keep the organics out of there and so, you know, leaf gutter runoff, you know, is something you want to try to avoid. And so I did mention about doing additional extra capacity here for some type of safety measures, engineering safety factor to ensure when you get these big storm events and the back-to-back storm events, that this is going to be able to handle it. Erosion control. One of our comments is that, you know, to try to get the erosion control at least 5 feet away from the TOA slope. Otherwise, a lot of times what happens is that they just sediment builds up behind these things rather quickly and then flows over. And there's going to be some areas too, you know, a lot of times just a simple 1 row of hay bales or whatever, you know, or silt fence or compost, you know, may be fine in some areas, but other areas that are a little more strategic, has a lot more fill, a lot closer to the wetlands, you may need additional erosion control for protection. I call it strategic. It's some areas need more than others. And also on a site like this too, since it's so tight, you've got to, during construction, somebody's really got to stay on it, you know, and ensure that these measures, you know, are paid attention to, you know, because it's easy to do it here at the meeting and then all this stuff goes in a file and come construction, you know, so you need a flexible erosion control plan that whatever happens or whatever you need, you can throw it at it, you know, and the town has the, you know, should have the ability to, you know, ensure that the site, you know, stays contained. I think those were the biggies, and then, yeah, and then you know, obviously you're gonna be doing a SWIP plan for this, correct? And I think the commission would like to see that SWIP plan, you know, and same thing with those SWIP plans, you know, they can be beneficial if used appropriately and not just a piece of paper that gets stuffed in the file, you know. So I think with that, I think I touched on the major issues. And then I'll let you address my concerns.
Yeah.
Or the commission's concerns.
If it's okay with the board, we can go through and respond if that's how you guys would like to proceed.
Yeah, please.
Okay, great. I think we'll start with Andrew, who is hopefully a panel, and he can kind of go into how, you know, the first question, the first comment, kind of our thoughts on wetlands. Andrew, are you it looks like you raised his hand. There he is.
Yeah, it may take a minute to get on here.
Yep, there he is.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Thank you for the hybrid option tonight. I appreciate you helping me get here for this portion. Mary, do I have the ability to share my screen and take over? Can you guys see it within that room?
I will stop sharing and let's hopefully, Zoom seems to have had an update and it's different than it was last week. And I don't, hopefully you can share.
No worries if not. I can always go off your screen if need be.
Sometimes the computer has a mind of its own.
Yeah, we used to have the option to make you a co-host and I don't even have that option anymore. So I don't know what happened to that. And that's how we were sharing screens.
Yeah, no problem on my end if you want to pull up the plan that you had before, and I can run through on that plan as well.
So sometimes make the updates like they're trying to trick you.
You, I might have the plans that you had, I mean, you can use these or anything else. We have the other plans that were submitted with the NOI as well.
Yeah, these are fine. My goal primarily here is just to walk through some of the buffer zone comments, and then as much of this conversation is primarily stormwater, I know that the engineers are with you to be able to discuss that. So I can go off of this plan here and discuss kind of how we are thinking through some of the buffer zone comments outlined by Ecosystem Solutions. In their report, they correctly mentioned that the Wetlands Protection Act does not contain performance standards for work within the buffer zone. As this is a Chapter 40B application, we weren't bound to the local bylaw, so we revert to the Wetlands Protection Act. And so typically with work within the buffer zone, in this case, we would resort to the guidelines that are outlined within 310 CMR 10.53. And what that section primarily does is it outlines guidelines for regulating work within the buffer zone, albeit with no performance standards set. And so from a development team, what we do is we take multiple things into consideration that are mentioned within that 310 CMR 10.53. Some of the things that are outlined within that section include clearly demarcating a limit of work for the commission to view, in robust erosion and sedimentation plan, and the preservation of natural vegetation along resource areas. And so although we were not bound to the local bylaw in this case, because local bylaws tend to be stricter and more inclusive than the lack of performance standards set at the state level, we tend to include those local bylaw regulations where possible and use those as a guideline to conform to the greatest extent practicable. And so at the last meeting, the commission would have seen a colored plan set. That was all I was trying to bring up here. It's still the same version of this plan here. And essentially what that plan set did was it broke down the work within the buffer zone as far as pervious and impervious and where it was located. And what that plan was meant to do is to outline sort of how this project came to be, how things got laid out, and the efforts that were taken to preserve both the local bylaw 30-foot zone as well as the 100-foot buffer zone. And so what that plan shows is that we had about 2 acres of land that is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone on this site. And so what we did was we position as much of the parking and the building and the impervious as possible within that zone. We try to limit encroachments into the 30-foot zone where possible. I know the commission knows this site well. They've seen in person on these plans. So as we all know, the frontage to this lot is very, very narrow. And we have that man-made drainage ditch that functions as an intermittent stream that is still a jurisdictional wetland at the entrance to the site. And so what we were looking at as an applicant team is how this project can be laid out to clearly demarcate a limit of work, to have a robust erosion and sedimentation plan, and to preserve vegetation around the wetland resource areas where possible. And so what we were able to do is lay out the road as you see here, utilizing the upland land available adjacent to the intermittent stream, and then find that pinch point between the isolated wetland that wouldn't be considered jurisdictional on this project, but was still factored in, as well as that BVW system that locates right around the center of the site. And so we were able to limit all of the impervious surfaces that would be generated within that 30-foot zone, only where we were at a pinch point for our road. And the remainder of that was intended to be left naturally vegetated. The engineers have submitted plans with a full erosion control set. It's got double erosion controls with straw wattle and silt fence around all down gradient limits of work, around all soil stockpile areas, and they included a construction sequence. I mean, this is something that's typical of all projects that we do, and I know the commission's very familiar with the projects that are involved with Kevin Lopez and his team. It's always done right according to plan. So that construction sequence outlines exactly how this has to occur. And it always begins with staking out and flagging out the exact limits of work and the erosion controls on the site. And then step 2 is immediately installing those. So before any work begins, we outline a clear limit of work and everything gets set on the site. The other thing with this project that is important for a number of reasons, but it's also important for the long-term preservation of the wetlands as a whole, is the use of fences surrounding the limit of work. One thing that we try and do on projects like this is where we're including roadways around the site or large buildings such as this, the existence of a fence on the property creates a permanent barrier where no intrusions can occur beyond that zone. So what it does is it sets a permanent limit of work for us where we know that the limit of work that the commission approves for such a project is staked out in the field, a fence is installed in that area, and the vegetation within that 30-foot buffer zone and the wetlands as a whole are protected by that permanent limit of work established in the field. And so it's factors like that that are already thought about and brought into during the design phase. I know the commission has heard those or seen those on plans throughout kind of the hearing process, but it's definitely important in the context of the peer review and the work within the buffer zone to highlight the planning and the thinking that goes into designing a project and laying it out like this. I think with that, I'll definitely kick it over to the engineers. I know a lot of the questions are primarily stormwater, but I will be here for the remainder of the meeting for any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Now, Mary, any comments or questions?
I don't have any right now. Should we hear the engineers' comments, Chris?
Yes, please.
Okay, good evening. My name is Peter Lavoie. I work with D&L Design Group and I am the design engineer for this project. So I'm just gonna go through and try to hit some of Margaret's concerns. So the first one was regarding the stormwater analysis, and she discussed it. She was talking about the 2 culverts down gradient on School Street. So this design here takes into account the surrounding abutters concerns. We've met with the abutters down gradient. The applicant has met with the abutters where there are concerns now to address those concerns. Regarding the street drainage and the town's drainage towards School Street, this project here reduces rate and volume. So in the existing conditions, whatever, there is the drainage area here. So this front portion goes out towards 140, and then this area goes down to School Street. So this area here that goes down to School Street, we've taken into account, we did soil testing twice. I went out there preliminary, and then Mary went out there with me and verified the soils. And with that soil testing, we raised the basins. So we meet the required separation. And where we don't meet the required separation, or it's closer to groundwater, we did groundwater boundary calculations that were reviewed by Stantec, and also the soil information that was reviewed by Stantec. But the big thing is that this was an interest point, so nothing at this point here, there is no increase in rate or volume off our site towards the town stormwater. So what's getting there now, there's going to be less after this design. We also took into account, we used the NOAA 14 rainfall events. So those are higher than the normal TR 40. So normally with a site like this, I would design for like a 100-year storm event, and the rainfall event would be 6.9 inches. Under the NOAA calculations, we had to design for 7.85. So you can see it's much more higher than what a normal design would take into account. And also, in a normal design, I would only design to not increase rate off a site. But this takes into account rate and volume. So because we're holding the volume back, these basins are larger than what they normally would be, because you're holding the volume. So I just want to emphasize that the street drainage now is getting a certain amount of runoff. We've taken that into account, and we've decreased the volume leaving our site. So we're not increasing any volume off-site. So I feel that because I use this as an interest point, where there's no water leaving our site, it's not going to have an adverse effect on what the town's drainage is now. We have met with the funeral home people here. There were concerns about runoff on their site, so we've met with the funeral home. We've met with the School Street, 6 School Street, to resolve some issues with them. And then we also met with a couple of butters on Whitney Lane regarding the drainage. We added 2 drop inlets here because they were concerned because we put the road in that this would create like a dam and hold the water back. But we took that into account and we added that. So we have made changes with this drainage design, you know, talking to the abutters. So that would be the stormwater analysis. Regarding the infiltration basins, there was a question about freeboard. So the basins do have the 1 foot freeboard from the 100-year peak elevation, but my proposed spillways are a little bit lower under that 100-year, but that was taking into, you know, I described that that where these are not emergency spillways. They may be labeled incorrectly, but these are spillways that were accounted for in the drainage analysis. So that's why it's a little bit lower. I think it's like 2 inches lower than the 100-year flood elevation, but the HydroCAD has taken that into account, and I do have the required freeboard. I did look at the top of the basin, and on the design plans, they did have spot elevations on the top that showed from the 100-year peak elevation above would be that 1 foot. So I feel that I do have the 1 foot freeboard on the basins. I think there was no spot shots on this basin here, so that's what I would have to, I think I would have to add some spot shots along the top here and along the top here to ensure that those are built correctly and to make sure that I have that 1 foot freeboard, so I can add that. Erosion control. We do have an erosion control plan. We will be filing a SWIP with the EPA. And during construction, you know, when this is constructed, the site will be constructed with the lowest points first. So these basins would be the first things that would be constructed, and we would work our way back. So once this is constructed, it would have erosion control around it. It would get stabilized and vegetated, and then we would work up towards the building. And then during construction, if there was ever any need for temporary basins, and that is an as needed basis, we would add temporary basins to collect water, to slow it down, and then it would go into the drainage system, and that's how we would take care of that. That would kind of be as a as needed basin, you know, we would add those temporary bases and diversion. I think we did show some diversion berms and some temporary basins on the erosion control, but I'm not 100% on that. And then the last one was, I think it was regarding snow storage and construction stormwater maintenance. It was a snow storage comment. So I looked at the plans that were submitted, and I think David and I had talked about some additional snow storage areas after the comments. So there is a guardrail here that runs along here, and then I showed a snow storage. So that was adjusted. That guardrail was moved back so then they could store snow there. So the snow storage areas on the landscaping plan are locations where snow can be stored. So, you know, I know pushing the snow straight ahead would be perfect, but in some situations, you're gonna have to use like front end loaders and pick up the snow and then dump it into the snow storage areas. And then if there were 2 snowstorms back to back, then the snow would have to be removed if there's no room to put snow in that snow storage area. But all snow storage areas are outside of the no disturb. So that was, I think that was the concern I thought from the last meeting, that there was concerns about pushing the snow into the wetlands with the salt and other
Yeah, and
We will also be trucking out snow when appropriate.
Correct.
There's some storms back to back, so, you know, those snow storage areas will be well maintained, during.
I think those are the concerns. Like I said, there are a couple, you know, I can make some minor changes to the plans regarding the freeboard to ensure that freeboard is there. But I think the capacity of the basins were, you know, the design was reviewed by Stantec. They agreed with our overall design. We worked with them for 8 months, and we've gone back and forth with the drainage design, but I feel that, you know, we're not gonna have a negative impact on School Street. That's, any questions?
Mary, do you have questions or comments?
Did you not have questions and comments?
What's from the commission?
I have a question. One of the concerns was the maintenance of these. The drainage areas here, is there a maintenance plan?
There is an operation and maintenance plan that is specific in the drainage report. So that's gonna, and that gives you inspection reports after. So we have operation and maintenance during construction. That is gonna be maintained, it's gonna be inspected monthly. And it does call out when it has to be inspected. If a certain rain event happens, everything has to be looked at, the erosion control, if any silt is built up, you know, that has to be fixed, it has to be removed.
So when it's all completed,
Mhm.
is there a plan in place?
There is a plan in place, yeah, there's a plan in place that, you know, when to clean them, you know, there's a certain, you know, this area, like say this area here, this is gonna collect sand from sanding the parking lot. So during the fall and the spring, you're gonna clean that and remove that sand. So like, you know what I mean? So like when the winter comes, that'll be clean, fresh, and then it should work properly. And then in the spring, after the winter, those will be taken care
So
of.
that would be part of this, the whole plan, the maintenance of this whole area.
Right, the management company should have a company that will clean the basins, clean the catch basins. Those have to be cleaned, you know, the catch basins, the storm scepter, the trench drain. These underground basins, and this underground basin has observation ports within that, so they can look inside. And then they also have a manhole before and after.
Okay, so you mentioned they should.
No, they do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, they do have.
Okay, well, there's a difference.
Yep, no, there is a difference. I
Thank you.
misspoke, that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, it's actually part of our landscape contracts.
Okay,
That the plan that Pete is referring to is actually part of the contracts that we sign
okay.
with our landscape.
Well, I mean, she mentions this concern, and I just want to make sure that, you know, some of the projects that happen, things don't get cleaned out, things don't get changed, so, you know, it seems to be a big deal. So-
I mean, through the whole ZBA process, the big thing that the chairman emphasized was stormwater.
Okay.
So we took that into account and, you know, we had Stantec reviewed this, you know, we had one design and then we changed it. And Stantec started over and looked at it again from the beginning. So they've took a good look at the numbers. And then we took concerns that we know stormwater is a big concern for the surrounding area. So, you know, we don't want an issue after, so that's why we kind of took that one step further.
Thank you, I just wanted to.
So I have a question about the underground basins.
Mhm.
How do they get cleaned out?
Well, they have manholes before it, and basically the underground basin, this underground basin's only getting the roof.
Yeah.
So, and then they have a manhole prior to, so the water comes in, that manhole has like a sump. So that would be sucked out, I would think that would be sucked out, and then
like a machine.
Yeah, with the vac, that's what I would think.
Yep.
I've never cleaned one myself, but that's what.
We've actually had the pleasure of having to do it. It wasn't our own, we were tying into an existing Walgreens property. And they had never maintained it, and we had to bring in a vac truck company that came in, they did what Peter said, they went down for the manholes. And believe it or not, there's someone that goes down into those things with the vacuums and they suck it up, but what Peter's saying is that. If
Like
you're
year to
maintaining the
year,
manholes
So
properly,
year to year.
Yep.
How does it stay clean?
it's twice a year, like
Clean.
Peter said,
So twice a year, they open it up
the manholes
and
in the
they,
summer,
and they sump it up.
yes.
Okay.
And I mean, if you stay on the maintenance,
It catches in the.
right,
summer.
if you stay on the maintenance, then, you know, it will.
You don't have to go down.
Correct, but you do have observation ports in the front, so if you look and or inspect those, you'll see if there is anything coming in, and at that point, then you would work your way back and then look at the drain manhole.
So anybody walking by could see if it was,
They have to be able to pull.
They have to be able to pull up a
manhole.
manhole,
all right.
like, they're little covers,
Yeah, just saying.
yep, they're like a
You
6-inch
said
cover.
quartz, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a
Quartz.
6-inch, it's got a metal, like you can, so you can drive over it, it's H20.
I just had a question about the pipe in back of the funeral home.
Which pipe?
So kind of highlighted in the blue.
Okay, the blue, yeah.
So you had kind of indicated that it was maybe a little bit of a pinch point with that water coming out. So what sort of pipe actually is that? And is it?
This is not, this blue line is not a pipe.
That's not
That's I think it's a drainage flow.
Yeah.
Because like Margaret said, there's a high point right here. And then this only gets a small area here, but this basin is pushing it this way. Because this goes across the street and we can't, like I said, we can't increase any rate or volume towards 140 or towards School Street. That's part of stormwater management. So that if you go out there in a rain event, this flows down and it just flows right across this parking lot into a catch basin here, or just bypasses it and goes into this wetland here.
Actually, it flows out of that wetland and then it goes over to that light blue, right there, right all the way up to the top. Yep, there's a drainage structure there.
Right, but if you go out there in a rain event, this comes straight across the parking lot. It doesn't even get to that.
Okay.
So what we did, just so I can go into it, the funeral home had a concern. So what we did is we did a detailed topo of this area, because there is an under drain that someone put in that goes around the back and discharges over here. So what we're planning on doing, so to create, we are reducing the volume coming into this wetland, one. And then the second thing, we're gonna we designed like a grass swale with check dams over here to prevent that from going across the parking lot. And we're directing it towards that drop inlet right here.
To clarify, not on our land,
Right, so
we're trying to help the owner right now, like possible solutions, he has some of his own ideas, so we're trying to work with.
Right, we're trying to work with him now, but that was my design, was to create in a disturbed area already, it's already grass. We want to do a swale with check dams and direct the water towards this drop inlet and go this way instead of going across the parking lot, collecting all that sand when he plows and stuff like that. So we're kind of treating this water here and before it gets to this stream. So that's just what we've presented to him, and we're still talking to him. And then on School Street, we've done some designs with regrading their backyard, because they have an area where water stands. And they're afraid that it's gonna increase, so we're trying to take that into account.
So I'm sorry, so just to clarify, so the light blue is an actual pipe, or is it?
This is a pipe, yes. Yeah, underground on the park, and there's also another catch basin here that discharges over here as well. And then you have an under drain, trench drain, it's got like crushed stone, it's like a foot. It goes around the back here, and there's another pipe, so there's 3 pipes right in there.
Where's the edge of the funeral parlor's property? What's their property?
So their property line goes like this.
No, the top part though.
Oh, over here,
Yeah.
it goes right here.
Oh, all right, so all of that's included, so that's on their,
That's on there.
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
I think you said that, but I didn't know where.
No, that's fine. Yeah, because this is all grass. If you go by there, the grass area and these couple of trees are not on their property. Their property line is like
10 feet,
eight, 10 feet off their building,
Yeah,
but they maintain that. But like I said, we're decreasing the volume that's getting here. So that's one thing. And then we've met with him and we've tried to come up with some ideas for him how to take care of his. I don't think once this goes in and we start redirecting the water and controlling it better, right now it's free. Okay.
We have other questions from the audience. Mary, any questions or comments?
I think we have some questions from the audience.
Sure. So I have 3 questions. One is there a copy of your report made public to us?
I do not think it's on the website yet. It was just put out on Monday. We need to put that.
I think it is.
Is it on the website? Is it gonna up there?
On the ZBA or the Concom?
It's fine.
Okay. 2 is at a previous meeting with the ZBA, it was quoted that all snow would be removed from the property. Just a point, not just sometimes, it would all snow here. And 3, earlier tonight, the Board of Selectmen had a meeting. I'm not sure if any of you were able to be there, but they had a review of this project proposal by an attorney. And to quote the recommendation, it said, "The significant site constraints, wetlands, make the viability of a 60 unit very challenging, if not impossible, without presenting non-trivial risk to public safety and environmental degradation." It also says, "In my opinion, the zoning board has been deprived of peer review, providing a degree of scrutiny necessary for a project of this size, scale, and complexity." It's an 11-page report, which has serious concerns about this project and the environment surrounding it. So before any decision is made, I would hope you review this with the select board and their concerns from their attorney.
If I could just, for the snow removal, obviously, we're gonna take out a majority of snow when there are major storm events. For minor events, we wouldn't take it out. I believe we may have thrown around Peter, would you say 3 feet usually? We don't,
No, it's very simple.
Yeah.
It still goes into snow storage.
Right.
When the snow storage is full, if we have a back-to-back storm and it starts to take up parking spaces, snow gets removed.
Right, so.
That's the reason why you have snow storage.
Right, so that would be what we would do, as kind of standard for the sites. I guess the other thing with the letter, yes, the select board did get that letter tonight. We will kind of deal with that for the ZBA. It doesn't have much of an effect on what we're kind of doing here for Concom. The letter kind of goes into some architectural parking things, so obviously, welcome to read the letter, but that's our kind of feeling right now. So it was just released tonight, so.
Yeah, that's an opinion letter.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit outside our purview though.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, none of us have seen.
Any other comments, Mary?
We have Marcia, and actually, was that Mary Ellen for the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah. Marcia Keselowski. Not understanding how the snow storage area works, but this whole area is elevated and there's wetlands below. So if you store the snow and it melts, or if there's a rainstorm, that's gonna wash salts and road chemicals into the wetlands. Or is there a way that this water's captured?
Yeah, Andrew, you still on? You want to talk about just kind of salting and how it relates to kind of wetlands DP? We had talked about this before.
Yeah, David, I would say a lot of this is primarily more with the stormwater system itself, but I don't have the snow storage plan up, here to see exactly where they are, but the snow storage locations are typically selected in areas where whether they can either be pushed or a front letter would be used to move them to points where they're the furthest separation from these wetland resource areas, where they're not pushed up right against them, where any sort of melting would just go right in. And the idea is that as water melts, it hits the stormwater system. If it gets to the point where it's in the way and it has nowhere to go, that's where the trucking off site comes into play.
Be on the landscaping plan, Mary.
Yes. And we purposely kept all the snow storage in the 30-foot buffer zone, to make sure, they're furthest away from the wetland.
And that further kind of goes to the point that although this project is not bound to the 30-foot standards, that is a reason why Upton has that in place in their wetlands protection bylaw, that if those areas are put within 30 feet, then that becomes more of a reasonable concern. But this project, although not bound to those standards, still included that in the design and layout just to find the best areas for the project as a whole and to comply with the bylaw where possible.
It's up to the details.
After the details.
Yeah.
This one is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, so that shows the snow storage areas.
Here.
It's also worth noting that the typical goal with these is to find areas where there is an existing tree line as well. So what we see here is it's not parking lot to wetlands. We keep that natural forested buffer to the extent possible on a property. That helps with water quality as a whole, as well as giving the furthest separation possible between the development and the wetlands. So that's that squiggled line that you see along the edge there is the proposed tree line to remain as part of this project.
Any other questions or comments from the audience or the commission? Or Mary?
Okay. So the infiltration ponds and the maintenance schedule, the stormwater management guidelines from the state say you have to be able to get a vehicle all the way around your retention pond to do the maintenance on it. Won't that throw you in the buffer zone when you put that in?
No, can you go to the grading plan here? So, yeah, this is it right here. So there's a gate here. So you would probably use a small, probably by hand. They would come down here, there's a gate, there's a 10-foot wide space down here, and then a 10-foot wide around the berm. So you can get into the basin and clean it. As well as here, there's a gate here, you come in, you can go around the top of the basin and maintain all that. So it does you have to provide access, and we did provide access for getting into the basin. That's part of the stormwater.
You're gonna do it by hand?
You can do it by hand or by a small skid steer. You don't need, if you maintain the basins, you don't need big equipment. It's when basins aren't maintained, trees start growing in them and then they just don't work. This is private, so I would feel that the management company is gonna know that they have to maintain these structures. So they will be maintained, like in some towns, basins are forgotten. And then that's when you see trees and.
So is there a 10-foot buffer against the one up by the top of the road there?
No, there's a gate right here. There's a gate right here, and then there's a berm that you walk around, so they would just get in the gate, go into, this is only like 3 feet deep. So they're just gonna go down the slope, clean that out. And they basically, all they have to do is clean right in front of the invert, because that's where all the material is gonna build. If material is gonna build up, it's gonna build right in front of that invert, and if they just come right in and walk, it's grass, so they just walk down the 3 feet right in front of the invert, clean it out, and then leave. I mean, they'll park a truck here and.
So in an emergency, when it is clogged, they just wade in and dig it out?
What do you mean in an emergency?
If it's clogged and it's falling, it's filling up.
But if they maintain it, it's not gonna get clogged. That's why you have an operation and maintenance, that's why you have inspection, we have inspection reports that they have to fill out. And that will be part of the SWIP that will be submitted to EPA for their review.
Now, Peter, that is not going to the EPA yet.
It has, no, not yet.
Do you have other questions or comments? Mary, any questions or comments on your part?
Margaret, did you have any counter? What they said?
I guess my only thought is here, and it's been my thought since I started this, we're packing an awful lot into a small space. And I know you have the HydroCAD model, and that's what it is, it's a HydroCAD model. And we use a HydroCAD model to help replicate what we think is going out there during existing and proposed. So as engineers, you come up with different variables, whether it's the type of soil, slope, vegetation. You put these variables into that model, and that model then tells you how much stormwater you're gonna have. And then you can compare the pre to the post. So, I mean, that's what most engineers use to model developments like this, but I can only stress that, you know, sometimes what if we get it wrong? Or what if one of the variables was wrong? What if we have, if you could slide it up a little, yeah. So what if we get a back-to-back storm here? Or what if one of these basins, you know, what ifs happen? I've seen what ifs happen. And so you get back-to-back storms, or, you know, you talked about the back-to-back snowstorms, you know, and you get back-to-back rainstorms, and if this thing doesn't drain in time, you know, that it'll dump out a whole lot more water out here than what it's designed for, you know, or if the thing gets clogged, you know, and it's not infiltrating, you know. And so my concern is, and it goes back down to School Street, does anybody know how the drainage how that drainage functions on School Street? So for instance, if there was a failure or something, you know, we got one of those real big storms and all that water dumps down to School Street, is School Street gonna handle it with what they have down there? Has anybody looked at those structures down there, and what do they do? You know, you can look at the inlets, but what's on the other side? They're all buried and go in different directions. So that's what jumps out at me most for this project, okay? That you just want to make sure that, you know, you've looked at it all so that you don't have a problem after the fact, or 2 years after the fact. That and the buffer zone. Okay, thanks.
And then I'll just respond if you have anything to add after me. So, you know, I appreciate that's completely correct, but we've met with both of those neighbors, so we kind of have a better sense. Kevin's walked the site now 4 times. You know, we're adding possibly new vegetation, helping out depression. So we've made ourselves pretty familiar with kind of their backyards. And the other thing, you know, which we've said a few times and definitely important to stress, is we've gone through 5 rounds of kind of peer review with the engineer. We've gone through a whole redesign. We can say with confidence, there is going to be no increase of flow or rate or volume off our site. And our hope is we're actually going to make it better by, you know, putting these structures here to actually, you know, to get the water, filter it. And that is our goal. And, you know, yes, you can never say never, but we are confident that we are not going to make anything worse in that backyard. And we've had Stantec, who's been a great engineer, now confirms with that. So that is kind of where we are.
Just one last thought on that. So what would it hurt to go out there and take a look at those drainage structures on School Street to see what their capacity is?
We've been,
I think the biggest issue for me would be, where's the start and stop? I mean, it's not on our property, it's the town's, it's the town's drainage structures. I mean, I don't understand.
Well, okay, then I guess.
Well, no, I'm just asking.
No, I'm just saying,
Geological study.
We just hope that everything works as designed and there's never a problem, you know, I mean.
Well, I understand that, but you're a civil engineer too. I mean, how much do you, I mean, what if, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. So where do we go? Do we go all the way to Hopkinton to figure it out?
Definitely wanna know what those culverts could handle.
But we're not increasing any volume off our site.
Well, according to the model, you're not.
And we followed stormwater management. I followed stormwater management.
And what
I designed
happens,
it
and
to
what
the state
happens there
regs.
now, when the whole entire hill is just sheet flowing with absolutely no basins in no structures? What?
I don't know, what is happening there now on schools?
Flooding.
It's flooding.
Okay, well.
Mr. Henderson
not gonna
brought
get
up the
better.
December storm this year, and during that December storm, that wetland was full all the way up to the properties on Hazeltine and all the way across. And it wasn't a wetland anymore, it was a pond. It was a legitimate pond.
So you're
So
right.
And that's the same, the water that goes by School Street ends up in that stream behind the church that you spoke of.
No, it doesn't. That School Street goes down across 140 between Plain Street and M&M's garage there. The other one comes off High Street. It has no bearing on this particular site.
Does it go down to Centerbrook?
Pardon?
Does it go down to Centerbrook?
No, it goes to Center Brook, but it's well beyond up to the center.
Oh, that's different than
Yeah,
what I was
it comes-
recently
it comes
told,
this
which
way.
was so concerning, thank you.
But I will say, you gotta go with what your engineers say. I mean, we can have the what ifs. It was in California not long ago, we had 300-year storms in 6 weeks. So, you know, whatever the engineers say, and they put the percentage in there for what they think might happen. You can argue it all day, but you know, you gotta depend on the numbers and what your engineers are telling you.
You know, at this point, since we have so much additional information to review, we take another 2 weeks to review all this. What are your thoughts, Mary?
Chris, it seems like the board would like to continue.
Yes.
By recontinuing just so the next meeting, is there anything you kind of want from us to prepare, or, I mean, you could always also. Could you close the meeting too and then talk about it, or we just don't have anything else to present at this moment? I think our intent is, so that was just, if there's anything to prepare, we'd love to know.
I say keep me open for now, because they usually don't close things until we're all done. So it's our time clock starts. So how about if we continue with me, because we have so much new information to review. Does that sound reasonable? I don't think we need more information, just more time, review, what Megan's report, and then all of your other. And I have one question. Did the zoning board already close and planning board close?
So we don't, because it's a 40B, we don't have to go in front of planning board, which we haven't been. For the zoning board, Wednesday is the final meeting. Our intention is to kind of close it at that meeting. So that's the answer to that. I'm hoping in 2 weeks, everything will be closed except Gonville.
Okay, thank you. So if we continue this for 2 weeks, then we can have more time to review everything.
Can I just, one thing, yeah, so will we be getting any written responses to our comments here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So written response from the applicants and their engineers would be great. Mary, what time will we put it on for our next meeting?
Should we do 8 o'clock? 7:30? 7:30.
Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah. Thanks, we don't have anything for next. Let's do 7:30, all right.
I appreciate all the information that people have presented. Tonight. So 7:30 is the next time we'll hear from you. And just so the audience knows, if they want to come 7:30, please.
Yeah, and another reason to continue it is actually because we had people having trouble getting into the Zoom meeting. I don't know if we should close when there may have been issues to access the Zoom.
Good point, Mary. And Friday thing, we make sure both things are consistent for the Zoom information.
Yes, we need to check that out. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, how about our administrative report?
All right.
Pick off the roll.
Okay.
Should have been.
You've been waiting all that time.
And the tea leaves, the Worcesters.
Okay.
Some of the water go down a couple streets and underground. It's not, I know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, some of that. Good night, guys.
It's interesting that they restaurant and so on and investigated, and so I thought in case you were wondering about their findings.
Chris said he wasn't doing well.
It's not investigated.
He wasn't able to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we're worried about our water because.
You know, I asked that retention pond question
Great.
at least 8 times. What happens when, what happens if you wouldn't get some?
Yeah, we could talk to Dennis. Yeah, because it's interesting because 17 schools street
It's come up so much that we really like.
I don't think there's an issue, because I know we ran into that with 17. I don't think, I think he's a little bit further along, but same problem.
Sounds like considerable isolation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is interesting. It's very interesting. It really is. I want to grab that.
Yeah.
People. Hi, Tom. Hi.
Alright, so I think the main thing, and I don't know, I guess, Chris, we should, it's a little late, but we'll continue on. I was driving along 74 Fiskell Road and maybe somebody else remembers, but I feel like we've had issues with this homeowner. So,
Where is that?
this is on Fisk Mill, and I kind of across from where Tyler intersects it. And this is the other direction. Of course, this is wetland, right on the other side of that. I'm just wondering, and you may not remember, maybe it would probably be Mike that would remember, or Chris, I don't know if you remember 74 Fisk Mill Road.
Just say
There's
something about it.
feedback in the background. If you could close the door.
I think so.
It looks like people walked away, but
Yeah, could you guys hear any of that?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I did, thankfully, I stopped by and the homeowner actually came right out and had a nice chat. I did ask them to put some silt fence up. But I don't know if how we want to proceed with this. I think they need to probably need to clean.
They gotta clean and stabilize it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it seems
Hello?
to be running right.
Right, it's not
Losing their yard.
they're definitely, I don't know what happened here, but,
Where is
Didn't
that?
get
It's
seeded.
more fiscal.
yeah. You know where this
I'll just
is?
look it up.
Yeah, right.
See which one it is.
Yeah, and I just have this vague memory though of talking about this property before with Dave Pickard, like
Okay.
this may not be.
I remember that.
They may have done other stuff. Does anyone else remember? I didn't get a chance to look at the file, but
I remember that Bailey.
I feel like, and I want to make.
Is this still? Yeah, is it at the intersection of two roads, like Fisk Mill runs
Yeah,
up
and
together?
then Tyler's across the street, yeah, so this is on, yeah.
Okay, right,
All right,
so,
here's a picture of the house.
right, no, I do remember discussing this. I do remember there was talks about wetland and not, and then we're letting them do something, I can't remember exactly, but, it shouldn't have been hard to stabilize that, I mean, just went to rye or something, anything.
Right. So, yeah, it needs to be stabilized and it seems like they may need to pull some of that dirt back.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a chance to dig down and see how deep it was, but.
They should definitely put a silt block or something.
So it's been a busy week, so I stopped by and I talked to her, but I haven't done anything with it since, like email them or anything. Would you guys want them to appear at a meeting or, we may have time?
Good idea. And hopefully, then before we get a lot of rain.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put together, yeah, maybe they'll let me do a little site visit and I can try to figure out how deep it is or whatever. Oops.
Joe Logger up there, Mary.
That's right. So of my report, I think that's kind of the main problem area. And here's.
Put that up to get us excited.
Oh, I know. A lot of stuff is going on. Glenview's fine. Wildwood's under construction. I did 2 pre-construction meetings this week. One is, oh yeah, this is 63 Mendon.
The buffer, that's the big,
That's-
RV.
Yeah, that's the RV one. Yeah, so they made a little progress, but they need to do a lot more. So, yeah, so that's, and then I think, let me just look at. I think there were a few things that we maybe should discuss. This is for land stewardship, Goss Pond, the no motorized vehicle sign has been removed again. I think I forwarded it on to them. And 78 North Street, calling to find out about the status of mowing. Marcella, I'm thinking the town should hire someone to take care of all these things.
So.
What's that?
I was just thinking, there's all these land stewardship things, I'm thinking the town should hire someone for all these properties.
So Marcella, because the people on 78
Yeah,
North Street
point there.
approached me about the mowing. Do you have a schedule for that, or? I
Well-
told them, no idea.
We usually do it every other year, but I have talked with Greg Trussell, who is available to do the mowing. The cost of it will be $1,150. So I wanted to find out if you would approve that, but if not, then it's not going to get mowed. So
Okay, no, they asked me, And I told them that I didn't know if there was a maintenance schedule. I know, I said, we have mowed it in the past. So I just didn't know.
Yeah,
Honestly,
it's generally every other year.
so do you know the last year that it was mowed?
Probably, it would have been 2 years ago, so we're due.
Okay, so we are due. Is
Yeah.
there, was there a reason we were mowing? I remember Mike talking about someone doing a butterfly study out there and different things. Is there?
Yeah,
is there a reason?
we were trying to be sensitive to when this I guess it's the Baltimore checker spot is when they're going through their breeding, molting, whatever stage of life they're at. So we're not disturbing what's disturbing their life cycle there. So I definitely would want to confirm that we're not going to be doing that, but we do have plans to mow it if we can fund it. So I would put that on the table tonight, and if people would be interested in having it mowed this season on schedule. It may not, we will have to pay attention to the sensitive issues with the butterfly, but we can definitely work around that. I would propose, make a motion that we spend $1,150 to have Greg Trussell come and mow the field.
Can I ask a question, Marcella?
Sure.
So is Greg our only option? I have nothing against Greg, but is that our only option for getting mowing done?
He has it, so far, yeah. We used to have Dick Howarth, who used to own that property. He was very familiar with it. He used to mow it for us. And he did it at a fraction of the cost just because he was being nice and he loved the property. But we ran into issues with insurance. He couldn't afford to buy. The insurance would have cost him more than it was worth doing. And probably would have ended up costing about as much as we'd be paying Greg. I haven't personally explored other possibilities. If you know of other people who do this kind of work, I'm happy to do some price comparisons, but Greg has been available. He's got the equipment. He's done work for us before, so he's done nice work for us. So
yeah, no, I'm not. I always. Well, I mean, I'm a little conservative when we spend money. I mean, that's just the way it's always been. So I don't know, that price you gave us may be good in market or whatever. I always like to know. I always like to get more than one price, but I understand, I don't know anybody who mows. So it was truly a question. I was searching for, are there other people that we could get a bid on? So that's all. I'm all for voting on this today, and maybe I can try to do a little research to see going forward if there are other people that would consider mowing it.
I'd be happy to see who else might be out there and available. But for this season, this seems like it would work. This is the same price he was charging 2 years ago. So I feel like we've agreed to pay that kind of money before, and it seemed to work out. So but I have no objection.
1,100 and whatever.
$50.
50.
Fund would this come from?
What was that, Chris?
Which fund would this be paid from?
I still didn't hear that.
Which fund would this be paid from?
Oh,
Which fund?
Land maintenance?
Grace probably knows the best.
I would guess land maintenance is the appropriate.
Okay.
Oh, we had a motion and a second, so let's do a voice vote. Chris, I.
I, David, I.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, that's unanimous vote of the commission present. Thank you.
And thanks, everybody. Hopefully he can get to it quickly.
Okay, now, the administrative report, Grace.
We have to approve last meeting minutes from June 26th.
Okay, did anyone have any comments or changes? If not,
Mike had a few comments and I sent the revision back out this afternoon.
so we have a motion to approve the revised meeting minutes.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, I.
Abstain, David, I.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, that's the majority of the commission members present. Okay, so Grace.
Mary, it says I'm disabled from being able to share my screen.
Yeah, Grace, I don't know, I can't make you co-host anymore. Zoom's different, it changed. There was an update.
Just tell us
So
how
I
much
will,
it is.
I can share
Stupid
my
Zoom.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to display the voucher.
Yeah.
You haven't had supper?
I said, I didn't know the stuff was in front of me.
I was gonna say, no wonder he's grabbing.
You think this is grabbing?
No,
I'm not even close to getting grabbing.
I didn't say anything.
Be careful.
I should be home with my thing on mute.
Be careful.
Grace, you want the voucher?
Yeah.
Okay.
You made my thing wrong.
Yes, so we have our annual dues from MACC as well as a legal advertisement fee.
Okay, do
I'm
motion.
always amazed that they charge us so much and I don't know what we get out of it. I guess we get.
A motion to pay our bills.
What are we talking about right now?
Motion to pay the bills.
Chris, second.
Second.
All in favor, Chris, I.
I, David, I.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, that's unanimous vote of the commission members present.
I have a request. The Near Map subscription, annual subscription is due. And in fact, is less than it was last year. I'm drawing a blank on the amount. It's about $2,200, I think. Divided, that's the part that the Concom would pay. And I'm prepared to submit a voucher on behalf of the Concom, the Assessor's Office, and the DPW. I just wanted to be sure that the Conservation Commission was interested in renewing the subscription.
Now, does that come from general expenses or wetlands?
Like, Grace, did we pull it last year from like because we have a lot of money in our wetland bylaw fund. Did we pull it from there?
I feel like it was expense, but I can look back and check on that.
Okay.
It probably should be.
That's,
expensive.
you're supposed to be implementing the law with that bylaw, right?
This is our local bylaw,
That's
different
what
than
I'm
the
saying,
state
yeah.
bylaw.
All the extras.
Yeah.
We have a motion to pay the Near Map fee. Whatever.
Doesn't
Second.
matter.
Second.
Okay. Whatever fund is appropriate. And let's vote. Chris, I.
I, David, I.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I. And what was the amount again? Or
Don't know.
It was
2,200 or something.
We don't know how much or what fund
You
it's
know
coming
what?
out.
It was just under, it's just under $3,000.
You know where it's going.
I know, it's like we all voted to spend this money, but nobody knows the amount, so.
Yes, it's just under
Bill knows.
We don't know the
$3,000.
amount of what.
Bill knows, we trust
Yeah,
Bill.
it's just under $3,000.
Oh, my God.
Thank you.
I
Lloyd.
trust Bill. I can't expect the rest of you to do that, but I can
trust him.
vouch for him. He's a good guy.
And like I said, shockingly, it's less than it was last year.
I think Marcel is biased, though.
I hope we get
A little.
Great, anything else?
No, that'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have one question where it says sign documents. Do you have anything from tonight's meeting that we need to sign?
Yeah, we signed it.
We signed papers
Yeah.
already.
We
We
signed.
signed him, I think, I may have to, hopefully we may have to wait till next meeting, because I only got 3 signatures, I think I need at least 4.
Oh,
So,
there was the others.
or maybe someone can stop by town hall, but,
So we have
Not-
by-
not all.
actually, for quorum, when we do these hybrid meetings, I think it's okay tonight, but if we were ever to only have 2 people here and 5 people on the screen, I'm not sure that works.
I thought,
With a hybrid, I think you have to have more.
I thought the town manager said it didn't matter.
Didn't matter, oh, maybe
I
need
thought,
to-
I thought he said that at one time, because Mike brought that up, said we had to have 4 people here,
Right,
and I think the town manager said that's not accurate.
oh, okay.
Again, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think we're still subject to the rules that were put in place for COVID,
Great.
which relaxed that particular requirement.
Right.
If it helps, I can stop by.
So I'll see you. Second tier.
So-
Like, studios like we are ours apparently.
I think for open space,
No updates on Wildwood and the church property. I believe Sudbury Valley Trustees has agreed to pay the cost of the appraisal for the land off of Mechanic Street that abuts Steffens and the property we just acquired. And we will be meeting, SVT and I will be meeting with the owner and his son on the property in North Upton off of Fay Mountain Road in early August.
excellent. Okay, now how about land stewardship?
I just wanted to let you all know that was it? I think it's the Natural Heritage should be contacted. There's some folks coming to I don't know if you've been CC'd on the emails from Mike, and I can't remember what the name of the organization is, but they're doing some surveys of some of our town properties, and they've gotten the okay from the town manager to take a look and do the surveys at I think Forest Heights, and they are also looking to take a look at the newly acquired Peppercorn Hill properties, and Kristen from SVT just wanted to point out that they might have to contact Natural Heritage, but they also should have our okay. So I just wanted to find out or want to just vote on whether or not we okay that. So I will propose or make a motion that we allow them to come do a survey and possibly collect some seeds at the Peppercorn Hill parcels, and if they discover anything, of course, to share it with us. But
Who's
anyway.
doing the survey? So,
I think it's
Pardon?
who's doing the survey?
Native Plant Trust.
that's them. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember the name of the group.
Any
But-
more other discussion about this?
What's that?
Just wondering if we have more of a discussion. Okay, can we have a second?
Second,
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, I.
Tom, I. David, I.
Sandy, I, oh, permission to let them do the survey.
Yeah.
Marcella, I, and of course, this is pending approval from Natural Heritage, so.
Yes,
Thank you.
Why would we need approval from Natural Heritage?
This is just something Kristen brought up.
We
Maybe we
pretend-
don't. If we don't, then we won't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, we're just letting them do a survey and grabbing a
Yeah.
few seats. What's the big deal?
I'm not sure they need
a couple
approval so
sensitive
much,
areas.
but any findings, would, if they do find any endangered species, for example, or anything that is listed, they'd probably wanna get a report on that. Natural Heritage would wanna know if there's anything of interest over there. So it's not so much approval, but we'd wanna share what we find or what they find.
Forest Heights is part of the ACEC, I think.
Yeah,
That might be why.
so that
Okay.
would be,
Yards Estates, Zala Drive. I'm gonna go through these fast, Delaware Drive. What
Yeah,
was?
I think, Chris, the only thing that we really need to talk to about on these discussion items is the Rockwood Meadows Conservation Restriction Mowing Inquiry, because we didn't do it last time, and then the person said, hey, what did you guys decide? So let me just read this email from Steve Guerrera, former trustee of Rockwood Meadows. A local farmer has offered to maintain and cut our meadows in exchange for allowing them to harvest the cuttings. They think this would happen 2 to 3 times per year. I recall that that you and Maury Gasser had said this would be acceptable. Our 2015 conservation restriction agreement seems to indicate that this is not prohibited. See excerpt below. Please let me know if this is acceptable.
I would like to know who that guy is doing the mowing, because maybe we could talk to him. about the
oh,
mowing.
yeah.
Well, he's probably. Pretty probably.
Yeah, but he's,
thing, and
but
he's
he doesn't
probably
live next door. They're
Bail
fine.
it or something.
But, yeah, I think, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I think we spoke about this at a meeting prior to that one. Huh?
Yeah, maybe.
I think so, and I thought we agreed that it was not a thing that was disallowed.
Okay.
That's what I remember. Do you remember that, Marcella?
Yeah,
Remember-
and just knowing the area, I think it would be a really good idea to maintain those meadows. And this is a great way to do it.
Yeah, I'm personally fine with it. I didn't know my only concern was timing of it. I don't know if you can speak to that anymore about other times that are better than others, just knowing it. What's
Just
best for
they'll mow
hay?
it when the grass is. the
Well, for the
leaves.
hay, like, yeah, I mean, you wanna do it, yeah, you want to sell it.
Doing it Too early.
Is it that whole open area in back of the parking areas?
Up towards the front there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a map of it, but let's see. Oh, the large meadow behind our clubhouse and the small meadow at our community entrance across the street from the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So
That's what I thought.
we
The
don't
whole-
know if they're gonna bail it or how they're gonna collect it.
Well, that's
There'll
fine.
be heavy
He's gonna
equipment in
harvest.
there.
Yeah, he's gonna
Harvest the cuttings.
Yeah, so he'll probably be baling it, well, cutting it, rowing it, and then probably baling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Tom said, the only thing would be timing, right? I mean, if it's.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I can't speak to the timing or anything, but I'm not opposed to it. I mean, what if we could bring it back up
I
and
approve it, and if we don't like it, if something comes up, we can
address it?
talk to them about it.
Well, you can
Just-
approve it for this year. And if there's a problem with it, then we can address it again.
Yeah, I think
Well, I
that's,
think if there's a problem, it'll come up.
yeah, and this year, in theory, they've already missed
Right.
one or two of the cuttings.
Right.
So I would.
Uh.
Sorry, go ahead.
Are there any endangered species up there that we need to, is there anything we need to, do we need someone to do a turtle sweep or something? Do we know of anything that we should be concerned about?
I
That-
can look right.
Yeah, that, the guy who's cutting it is not gonna do a turtle sweep.
I don't think those
He's
areas-
just not. But
No, I
I'm
don't-
I'm not opposed to it if we can review it at a later date. I'm not opposed to going forward with this as long as we can review it at a later date and just make sure it's appropriate, I guess.
Before we adjourn, I have one question. With the with Mullins, since people have problems logging in tonight, are they exempt from this?
All right, so the Mullins rule applies to just the board members, okay? And so what it means though, and we haven't really been doing this and
We've never done it.
yeah, so but what it means is if you don't, like, for example, for a project where there's a lot of hearings, like more than 3 or 4, like the 40B, if you're not at every single hearing, you're not allowed to vote when the final thing happens unless you like watch the video and review the information. So now we haven't really been keeping track. In Webster, I actually kept track of who was there and then I would say, all right, you can't vote. And then it ends up being a problem.
Right, because you have a quorum.
If you don't have enough people to make a quorum. So you guys are usually really pretty good about making meetings, so it's not a huge issue. But just be aware that, so the town of Upton has a Mullins rule, which means you're allowed to miss, but I think it may only be one, say there's 3 hearings or 5, you may only be allowed to miss 1. I can't remember how many you can miss, maybe it's 1 or 2. But you have to actually sign there's a piece of paper that you sign and say, I reviewed the whatever, and you turn it in if you do that. So if we want to be, if you guys want me to start keeping track of attendance, I can. But
Well,
What brought that up? Why are we talking about that?
because
Instead
it
of
came
the
down
mowing.
from.
I
Because
thought
Chris was asking about the
I
Mullins,
thought we
right?
were, I thought we're talking about mowing.
Right,
We're
going up
gonna
to the mowing.
decide about the mowing.
Well, like I said, we can,
Oh, Chris is muted now.
no, she's okay.
Oh, she's okay.
And it was on our list.
Well, we gotta vote on the mowing.
I was looking at Heritage and I'm trying to find it. It's not even showing.
Can we have a motion to vote on mowing?
Oh, you thought she said Mullins.
Well, she did. Mullen.
Need to
Yeah,
go
she
Mullins
did.
late.
She did say it, but we were talking about mowing.
I make a motion to allow the mowing this year. How about we do it that way?
How about,
Are you checking the map?
how about, right, so how about we approve it with the ability to revisit it? I wouldn't just say this year, because they're only gonna cut it.
All right, whichever.
I just would like to be able to revisit it in the future if necessary. Makes sense. That's all.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, I.
I do that.
Sandy, I.
Marcella, I.
Okay, that's unanimous vote of the members present.
Okay.
Ready to adjourn?
Well, let me just ask about the Mullins rule.
What?
If you wanna leave, you can leave, well, because it may affect me directly, because did you speak about 40B last meeting? That thing,
Yes.
okay,
yes.
so I have to sign a paper.
No, you don't, unless they require it.
I thought she said it's required.
She said perhaps.
No, I mean, we haven't been doing this, technically it's required, so if there were, say the neighbors decided to appeal this and Tom didn't fill out a certificate, they
I
could
may have
win.
missed a meeting.
They
Right,
could win their
right.
lawsuit based on something like that.
So that's
That's
why
okay.
it's important, because that's a big contentious issue
All right,
in town.
then we should keep that.
So, right, and that's
And
why,
since
And I need that
Grace is-
paper, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, did you send it?
I might have, yeah, so it came up because Mike Antonellis was just reminding the boards that we should be doing this, so. I did send it out, but I'll try to,
But Grace already keeps attendance, right? It's already.
If she keeps
It's-
attending,
but she's not like
Right.
checking.
To see if you're
how
at
many
that
people-
meeting.
yeah, but she knows who's at the
Yes,
meetings.
yes, we can,
So,
we
so
can
she
go back
does.
and recreate it.
Right.
Yeah, I used to have a little chart, it was nice, you could look at everything.
You
Say,
are
"Oh,
so organized.
that was a Webster.
Hey, Mary, you had said that the person would have to view the video. Is it sufficient to read the minutes, or do you actually have to
I
view
read-
the video?
I read the minutes. I didn't-
And we'd have to look at the piece of paper and see what it says. I think viewing the video is preferable. Obviously, I mean, the minutes, you know, contain an outline, but
Cause I read them,
yeah.
I did not.
But you
Oh,
have
shoot.
to sign your life away to prove that you've read them.
No,
Yeah.
you just sign, well, you just sign. I mean, are they gonna argue that I didn't? Like,
That's right. That's right.
I did.
You go down to the police station and they watch you watch the video.
They take my picture, mom. They videotape me watching the video.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn unless there's something else critical to tackle.
So
Let's have
moved.
a voice vote.
So moved.
So moved.
You, Mary and Grace.
Night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank
I
you,
think that was
Chris.
a vote and an aye. I say aye.
It's all
Good
good,
night,
Marcel. It's
everyone.
all good. It's all
Thanks,
good.
everybody.